should be important, you just write down. Because I will be talking about too many points and it will not be possible to recall those points later. So whatever you remember, you just note down it. Later if I get a time, I will share notes related to that. So today we will be talking about project life cycle. एखादा कुठलाही प्रोजेक्ट जेव्हा आपण कन्सिडर करतो तेव्हा त्याची लाईफ सायकल काय असते त्याच्याबद्दल आपण थोडंसं बोलणार आहोत. सो एनी प्रोजेक्ट that we carry out as an engineering student has some life cycle. Life cycle, do you know? Life cycle of anything, like start of something to the end of that is called as a life cycle, right? जसं आपण आपली ह्यूमन लाईफ सायकल म्हणतो, आपण बाळ म्हणून जन्माला येणं, थोडंसं मोठं होणं, शिक्षण घेणं, नोकरी करणं, नोकरीमध्ये काम करणं, रिटायर होणं. So this is the life cycle. So likewise there is a life cycle for project. So whatever project we do, it has a life cycle. So it has 5 stages of life cycle. So first stage is conception. What is first stage? Conception. Second stage is definition. Third stage is execution. Fourth step is monitoring and evaluation. And the fifth step is closure. So this is the life cycle of project. Sometimes there is not a closure. There it can be like re-innovation of that. That can also happen, right? So first stage is conception, second stage is definition, third stage is execution, fourth stage is monitoring and evaluation, and last stage is closure. Now suppose if we take the example of any product, आपण एखाद्या प्रोडक्टचा विचार केला. Suppose we take the example of Activa scooter. Right? So when they started building that Activa scooter, they had some kind of conception, like they want to develop this kind of scooter. Right? After that, they decided some parameters for it, like that is a definition stage. After that, they executed it. They started actually manufacturing that scooter. Right? After that, monitoring and evaluation, whether whatever design parameters we had decided initially, whether that vehicle is giving or obeying those parameters or not. That is like evaluation and monitoring. And finally, they are not closing it. They are re-innovating it. Like it was like only Activa, then Activa 3G, 4G, 5G. Now you might know more about it, right? So they are actually innovating on it, and they are coming with the newer versions of the vehicle, right? And if we take the another example, like you know Bajaj scooter, एक खूप मोठी Bajaj scooter राहायची. The same happened with that, but now it is now in closure. That project is already closed, right? So sometimes the project is closed, or sometimes we go with the new innovations of the product, right? You might be knowing some Kodak cameras. Kodak camera माहिती आहे जुने एकदम होते. Do you know that? So now those are closed, right? Because nowadays we are having camera in our pocket, mobile camera. So we don't use it. So that project is closed, but some other project has come into the existence. So every project will have a life cycle. So first stage is conception, second stage is definition, third stage is execution, fourth step is monitoring and evaluation, and last step is closure. Right? So we will look at each step one by one. So what is conception? What is under the step of conception? त्याच्यामध्ये काय काय येईल आपल्याला? It will have the project selection, right? Then it will have team member selection, right? Because we need to select a proper project. Then we need to develop a concept of that project, right? How we can develop, for that we need design thinking approach, how we can develop that project. So that will come under the conception. We need to develop some concept. Everybody is having some concept in the mind. If I tell you some example, right? If I give you any example, industry related example. So in that case, you will have some concept, like I want to develop a drone for the fertilizers in the agricultural field. So if I give this idea to you, you will have different concepts in your mind, राइट. प्रत्येकाच्या डोक्यात एक वेगळा विचार येईल की असा ड्रोन असेल, कोणी वेगळा विचार करेल, कोणी वेगळा विचार करेल. So concepts will be there in the mind. Now we need to bring that concept on the field. So what is that idea? First of all, we need to see how we can select the idea. What are the ways of selecting idea? This is what I have given you as one idea, but there may be some other ideas, some other innovative things that we have in our mind. So how to select that idea? How to select that idea? Project idea कशी निवडायची? What are the ways of selecting the idea? First of all, we need to identify our own interest. What is my own interest? In which area I would like to work? In which area I would like to contribute? Right? Whatever courses I have studied so far, what new courses I will be studying in my coming years. आतापर्यंत मला किती ज्ञान मिळालेलं आहे engineering related, which I can apply to solve my problem, or which I can apply to the idea. What is the current trend in the market? Where the market is going? If I develop a product out of that idea, whether that product will sustain in the market or not, or I am coming with the same product which is already available in the market where people will not buy it, I need to come with some real innovative product so that people can use it. Right? So that we need to see. We need to consult with our supervisor, with our guide, with our mentor, with our industry partner on the project. Like if I give you the example of making a drone for agricultural field, you need to talk with the farmers, you need to talk with the people, those who are making drones, get their ideas. Like I have this concept, can you throw some light on that? What features you need extra in that? That we need to see. So we need to consult with the people. We need to write down the scope, to what extent will be developing this product, कुठपर्यंत आपण जाऊ शकतो, कुठपर्यंतच आपण बनवू शकतो. We need to look at the cost, because we cannot develop a product which is very costlier so that people will not buy it. असं नाही करायचं आपल्याला. We need to see that it is feasible for them to use, to buy. We also need to look at the resources available to us. We are not going to develop a satellite without any resources. When we want to develop a satellite, we need some resources. We need some resources in the form of expertise, resources in the form of e-resources, journals, tools, softwares. So we need to look at the available resources with us. We also need to look at the relevance and the impact. How relevant this topic in the current situation is, that also we need to look at. Right? Then we also need to look at the future aspirations. What are our future aspirations? What are that also we need to look at. Finally, we also need to visit some industries. We also need to visit some project exhibitions. We also need to visit some. We need to take part in the competitions where we can get more ideas about it. So when we do all these activities, then our concept is, is converted into, is given a proper shape. That concept is given a proper shape, and then we can actually use it. Just now I said that I want to make a drone for agricultural purpose, but now my purpose is not clear, where to use it is not clear. But if I interact with so many people, if I get some feedback from them, then my complete idea will be clear. Like I want to develop a drone which will carry 5 liters of fertilizer and which will throw fertilizer from the plant, from the height of so and so. That everything is now in my mind, which will have a flying capacity of 1 hour, 2 hours, which will be remotely operated by the farmer. That everything related to that, every specification related to that will be ready. Right? So for that, we need to select our project very carefully, which will be costing around 1 lakh rupees so that people can buy it. Right? So all these points we need to consider when selecting the project. What are these points? First point is identify your own interest. Second point is review your understanding, what knowledge you have. Review your resources, what resources you have. Then what is the current trend, what is the current market. Consult with the supervisor, guide, mentor. Then look at the cost, look at the budget, look at the resources available, and interact or visit the industries or participate in the competitions, project exhibitions, and all that. Based on that, you can actually decide your project. Right? Now, second part of the conception, Project conception is that how we can make our project meaningful. Another project आपल्याला करायचा आहे. How we can make it meaningful. Like we need to take or we need to learn maximum out of the project. How we can do that? For that we need to select a topic of our interest. एखाद्या गोष्टीमध्ये आपला इंटरेस्ट कधी टिकून राहतो जर तो खरंच इंटरेस्टिंग असेल, खरंच आपल्याला आवडत असेल तर आपण त्याच्यातला आपला इंटरेस्ट रिटेन करू शकतो. एखादी गोष्ट आपल्याला आवडत नसेल तर आपण सुरुवातीला 1-2 दिवस करतो पण नंतर आपण ते सोडून देतो. तर आपल्याला टॉपिक निवडतानाच असा निवडायचा आहे की आपला इंटरेस्ट शेवटपर्यंत टिकला पाहिजे, शेवटपर्यंत राहिला पाहिजे. Right? If that is the case, then only your project will be meaningful. Then only your project will be meaningful. Then for that you also need to decide your clear objectives. Like what are my objectives of doing this project? What I will be doing through this project? That clear setting of the objectives is also very important when we are selecting the project. When we are doing a project, we need to have a strong bonding with the peers. Peers means team members. We select some team members for our project, so we need to have strong bonding with our team members. Most of the cases, we have observed that in the beginning, the team members are very excited to work on the project, but later as the project progresses, they lose some interest and then they do not actually work in a collaboration. So that should not happen. So we need to select our team members properly. Then every time we need to look at some innovative aspect or some creative aspect of the project so that we can retain our interest. एखादी गोष्ट खरंच नवीन असेल तर आपण करतो ती रिपीटेड असेल तर आपल्याला करायची इच्छा होत नाही. So every time we need to identify the innovative aspect. I will tell you how we can identify the innovative aspect in every project that we will discuss. Then it should have some kind of hands-on activities. When we are selecting some project, it should not be merely a theoretical kind of project, but it should have some hands-on activities. आपल्या लॅबमध्ये पण सुद्धा आपल्याला काही करायला लावलं तर मजा येते किंवा आनंद मिळतो. नुसतं समजा एखादा व्यक्ती तुम्हाला सांगत जातोय, तुम्ही नोटबुकमध्ये लिहित जाताय, then you lose interest. काय सांगतात परत तेच. Like that we feel sometimes. So we should get an opportunity to work on some machines, work on some instruments. So look for the project where you can actually do some work on your project, right? So identify such opportunities. Try to learn some programming languages, new programming skills, because when we go for the campus recruitment and placement, they actually ask you like what programming skill you have, what knowledge you have related to that. That also try to incorporate in your project so that you can learn that. Then you can include some multidisciplinary aspect. Simply because I am from electrical engineering, I will select a project which is having only electrical engineering knowledge will not work in future. I also need to work on some other aspects of the other disciplines like mechanical engineering. So if I talk about drones, the drones we are talking about, it is having the knowledge of robotics engineer, it is having the knowledge of electrical engineer, it is having the knowledge of mechanical engineering because it is having assembly and all that. It also requires some programming. So it select a project which is having a multidisciplinary aspect where you can collaborate the knowledge of all other disciplines in that. Another aspect of making a project meaningful is that you also need to identify the milestones in the project. Like in the case of making a drone for the agricultural field, assembling that project itself is one milestone, right? Adding programming to that project is the second milestone. Flying that drone with the help of remote is a third milestone. Then operating that drone in the agricultural field is the fourth milestone. So you need to identify some milestones in the project. What are my milestones and when I am going to achieve those milestones, that we need to identify and we need to celebrate those milestones. Then only we can get some energy. Then only we get motivated to work on it. So identify those milestones. Connect with the real world applications. So if you are selecting a project related to the drone, you can actually interact with the industries, those who are making drone, and you can share your ideas, get their mentorship, get their guidance. In fact, such a companies are very eager to sponsor your project as well. So that way also you can get some support. And every time when you make your project, get the feedback of your experts, get the feedback of your peers, get the feedback of your teachers. Then only you can make your project meaningful. So what is second most important thing in the conception? How I can make my project meaningful, right? First thing we have seen how to select the project. Second, we have seen how to make my project meaningful, how I can get maximum learning out of that project. Now third point in the concept is what is required for any project. What is required for any project that we carry out? काय लागतं आपल्याला project साठी? Any project that we carry out, we need strong fundamentals related to our discipline, right? Basic understanding of the subjects that we have studied so far. So we need that strong fundamental. We need to look at the basics related to our subject. So if I am making a drone, I need to look at the mechanics subject. I need to look at the programming of that. I need to look at the electronics part involved in that, sensors involved in that. So I need some fundamental understanding related to all these topics. Not to the deep level, but at the introductory level, we need to have that knowledge. What is second most important thing that we need to have in a project? We need to have mathematical analysis. Because when I am making a drone and I am flying it, I need to calculate some time for that. Like what will be the flight time of the drone? What will be the battery capacity required for that? What will be the tank capacity required? What will be the length of that fan? What will be the motor capacity? That everything we need to do. And this can be done with the help of mathematics. So we need to have mathematical analysis. पहिली गोष्ट काय आपल्याला? We need fundamental knowledge for our discipline. Second is we need mathematical analysis. Third, we need programming skill. Right? So we need to program that Arduino so that it can be inserted in the drone. So third thing that we need to have is a programming skill that we need to acquire. Fourth one is hardware skill. Ultimately, we need to assemble all these components, connect them, right? Join them together, and we need to use various tools for that. So that is the fourth skill that we need. What is next one? We need a good communication skill, because whatever project we have made, that has to be communicated to the farmers, that has to be communicated to the customers, that has to be communicated to the investors when we need to get some money from that. So we need to have a good communication. Communication not only in the form of oral, but in the form of written communication, like making a presentation, making a report on that. So for that also we need communication skill. And the last skill that we need is ability to learn new things. So every time we need to learn something new when we are doing project. So these are the 6 skills that are needed for any project that we carry out. What is first one? Fundamental knowledge. Second is mathematical skill. Third is programming. Fourth one is hardware skill. Then communication and ability to learn new things. So these are the 6 skills that are very important, that are very essential for making any project a successful project. Right? Our fourth point is how to select team members for the project. How to select team members for. Generally, how do we select team members for a project? Generally, how do we select? Simply because he is my friend, he is sitting with me, he is close to my home, right? He is my project partner. Correct? बरोबर असं select करतो आपण, but that way we don't have to do. We need to adopt some other strategy for that. Just now I told you what are the skills required for the project. 6 skills are required: fundamentals, mathematics, software, programming, hardware, communication, and ability to learn new things. This is required for a project. So we need to see that our project team is having all the 6 skills, right? And everybody is not very competent in all the skills. प्रत्येक जण या 6 स्किल मध्ये कॉम्पिटंट असतो का? नाही. एखाद्याला प्रोग्रामिंग चांगलं येतं, एखाद्याला हार्डवेअर चांगलं येतं, एखाद्याचं कम्युनिकेशन चांगलं आहे. बरोबर? That way we need to identify what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses. That way we need to list it down, and based on that we need to identify who is most suitable as a team member for our project. So that way we need to select our team members. That is one thing based on that. Second aspect of selecting the team member is that we should have a good mutual understanding between the team members. बरोबर? आपल्या टीम मेंबर्स मध्ये एक चांगल्या प्रकारचं म्युच्युअल अंडरस्टँडिंग असलं पाहिजे. Suppose by some reasons I am not available today, so my remaining 3 members will carry on the project. मी रोज रोज घरी नाही थांबू शकणार ना. एखाद्या दिवशी ठीक आहे, बाकीचे 3 मेंबर करून घेतील काम, right? But every time I cannot give the excuse. So we need to have a good mutual understanding. Like someone is not taking the undue advantage of our friendship, right? So that also you need to look at, because there are some team members which are like this only. Then next is how do we need to what kind of member we need? We need a proactive member. We need a proactive. What is meant by proactive? The one who is ready to do work. Because when you will be meeting your guide or the professor, he may guide you or he may tell you now do this, now do that, this is required, this is not done. In that case आपण एकमेकांच्या चेहऱ्याकडे बघतो की आता हे कोण करेल, right? So in that case we need to find or we need to have a member who is proactive, that he will say I will do it, you don't worry, right? Then we need a person who is very punctual, because your professor is calling for a meeting or you are meeting at some point for the project, you are going to the industry, they have asked you to report at 10 and then all 3 have come but one member is late because he is at some other place. असं नाही व्हायला पाहिजे. You need to have a person or a team member who is punctual, accessible. Accessible means even if he is not available, he is available on the phone. Most of the times in this cases phone is also switched off, right? So that way we need to find a person who is accessible and responsive. Accessible is who is available on the phone, and even if he is not available on the phone, if he sees the missed call, he will call you. So responsive is also needed. So that way we need to identify a team member. Only because he is my friend, only because we are sitting on same bench, we are team members, group members, असे members आपल्याला निवडायचे नाहीये, बरं? And committed and dedicated member we need as a project colleague. So this way we need to identify a project team member. So this is very important point. This is very important aspect of any project. Like we need to have a good team members. In case of आता समोरचा flyover जो बांधलेला आहे, that is also kind of project. When that project was carried out, it was given to some agency. They also have selected some members. They also have some team members, right? When you go in the corporate sector, you will be given some project. They will ask you. If you are a team member or team leader, they will tell you you select your team members. So that way we need to identify team member. आपल्याला कुठले team member पाहिजे, ते कसे निवडता आले पाहिजे, त्याच्यासाठी एक छोटासा पॉइंट आपण इथे ऍड केलेला आहे. Okay. So this is all about the 4 points that we have seen related to the concept development. Now next we will talk about the same topic like concept development, but we will switch to the design thinking. Have you heard of design thinking? Have you heard of design thinking? Design thinking शब्द ऐकलाय तुम्ही कधी? We will have a second lecture on design thinking. त्याच्यावरती second lecture असणार आहे आपलं. But briefly I will discuss about design thinking. So design thinking is a creative problem solving method. We can solve any kind of problem. Any complex problem can be solved with the help of design thinking approach. We can solve any kind of difficult problem, complex problem using the design thinking approach. So it has been used by many people for solving various applications, various problems, not only in the field of engineering but in the field of any other sector, like economics मधले काही problem solve करण्यासाठी, किंवा medical sector मधले problem solve करण्यासाठी, agricultural sector, health sector. So they are using design thinking as an approach for solving the problems. So in this case, there are 5 steps of design thinking. Design thinking चे काय? First of all, you can write that design thinking is a creative problem solving method. Right? HCD. human-centered design. It is also called as human-centered design. HCD, human-centered design. So that H is also stands for here. Here म्हणजे ऐकणे. Here म्हणजे ऐकणे. C means create and D means deliver. Here, create, deliver. Human-centered design. Right? So what is that? First of all, you listen to the problem. First of all, you listen to the problem. Try to understand the problem. Problem काय तो समजून घ्या. Then you create the solution based on the understanding. Based on the understanding of the problem, you create the solution. And once solutions are generated, you deliver it. You provide it. You give it to the customer. You give it to the customer. That is HCD. Here, create, deliver. Human-centered design. So, we are considering human as a center and we are trying to solve the problem of that. We are trying to solve the problem of that. Suppose I want to make a helmet. I want to make a helmet which will protect my neck while driving on a scooter. Most of the times you might have seen that in the month of January, February, people fly kite. पतंग उडवतात ना. आणि त्याचा तो दोरा असतो मांजा, तो अडकतो कुठेतरी. So when people are driving on the bike, unknowingly, समजा एखादा thread असेल तिथे, and if we are going with the speed, what will happen? It will cut our leg. It will cut our leg. So we need to develop a helmet or an attachment to the helmet which will protect our neck from the thread of a kite. So that way we need to develop it. You got my problem? Problem समजला तुम्हाला? Now we need to understand more about it. So we need to hear to whom? Hear to the customers. So you need to approach the customers like we are going to develop this kind of helmet. What is your opinion on that? You also need to look at the existing models of the helmet where we can put the attachment. We also need to look at the people, those who are selling the helmet, right? Mostly the ladies, those who are wearing the helmet, right? That also we need to look at. So first of all, we need to understand that problem and understand that problem from the perspective like as if we are the customer. म्हणजे काय करायचं आहे? पहिल्यांदा आपणच वापरून बघायचं आहे. पहिल्यांदा काय करायचं आहे? आपणच वापरून बघायचं आहे. We call it as empathy. We call it as empathy. Empathy म्हणजे काय? एखादी गोष्ट स्वतः करून बघणे आणि त्याचा अनुभव घेणे. That is empathy. म्हणजे आता empathy and sympathy is there. Sympathy म्हणजे काय आणि empathy म्हणजे काय? बरोबर? आता समजा दोन मुलं आहेत वर्गामध्ये. एक मुलगा फेल झालेला आहे परीक्षेमध्ये. तर दुसरा मुलगा त्याला काय म्हणतो की मला खूप वाईट वाटतंय की तो फेल झाला परीक्षेमध्ये. दॅट इज अ सिम्पथी. कारण की दुसरा मुलगा झालेला आहे पास. तो काय झालेला आहे? पास झालेला आहे. तो त्याला काय म्हणतो की मला खूप वाईट वाटतंय की तो परीक्षेमध्ये फेल झालेला आहे. दॅट इज अ सिम्पथी. पण दुसरा मुलगा पण फेल झालेला आहे. तो काय म्हणतो की आय कॅन अंडरस्टँड व्हॉट डू यू फील. दॅट इज कॉल्ड ॲज एम्पथी. That is called as empathy. So we need to actually empathize with the customer. So when I am making a helmet which will be used for this purpose, actually I need to use it, I need to wear it, I need to experience it, and then I can actually empathize with that customer or with the actual problem. So that is the first step of design thinking. पहिली स्टेप काय आहे? Empathize. आपण ते ॲक्च्युली समजून घ्यायचं आहे. राईट? आपल्याला समजा शूज बनवायचे, स्पेशलाइज्ड शूज बनवायचे, स्मार्ट शूज बनवायचे. सो दॅट वे ऑल्सो किंवा एखाद्या ब्लाइंड पर्सनसाठी आपल्याला शूज बनवायचे. सो वी नीड टू ॲक्च्युली टॉक विथ द ब्लाइंड पर्सन लाईक व्हॉट काइंड ऑफ शूज यू नीड, व्हॉट इज युअर रिक्वायरमेंट, अँड ॲक्च्युली वी शुड क्लोज अवर आईज अँड वी शुड वॉक इन द कॉरिडर. वी शुड एक्सपिरियन्स दॅट, व्हॉट दे फील. असाच एक प्रोजेक्ट होता त्या मुलांनी केला होता स्टिकचा. त्यांनी 8 दिवस डोळ्यांवरती पट्टी बांधून तो पूर्ण एक्सपिरियन्स केला and then they developed a specialized kind of stick for the blind. So that is called as empathizing. This is first step of the design thinking. Design thinking की first step काय आहे? Empathize. We need to actually understand the problem. Second step is once we empathize, we need to define. Now we need to actually come to some conclusion. Like this is the problem statement. This is the pain point. Problem म्हणजे काय? Problem means a pain point. कोणाचा तरी एक pain point आहे, बरोबर? So in that case, we need to exactly identify the pain point. That is called as the define. There may be several issues related to that, but what actually will solve this problem? That is called as the define. Now, how we can do that? आता मी तुम्हाला empathize चं सांगितलं. Empathize can be done in 2 ways. There are multiple ways of doing that. Empathize can be done by the observation and by the interview. Like suppose we are developing a stick for the blind person, we can interact with the blind person. We can interview the blind person. Or we can observe the blind person. This is the way of empathizing. Empathizing म्हणजे काय? समजून घ्यायचं आहे ना. तर आपल्याला काय एक observation is one way and interaction is the other way. Empathizing can be done by 2 ways. There are multiple ways of doing this, but I am just giving you 2 examples, 2 ways of doing that. Second step that I am talking about is define. Define बद्दल मी सांगतो. Now we need to define it. So when we are defining it, 5W1H model. It has a 5W1H model when we need to define the problem. What are the 5W in that? Why, what, when, where and which. These are the 5W we need to ask to that problem. आपल्याला प्रॉब्लेम समजलेला आहे, आपण प्रॉब्लेम आयडेंटिफाय केला, त्याला हे 5 प्रश्न विचारायचे. And 1H means how. 5W1H. This is how we can define it. शेवटी आपल्याला डिफाइन करायचं आहे ना. We need to get more understanding about it. 5W1H काय काय ते 5Y काय आहे, 5W काय आहे, why, what, when, where, which. These are the 5W and 1H, that is how. So we need to ask these questions to ourselves. That will help us to define the problem. पहिले काय सांगितलं? Empathy, empathize. 2 ways of doing that: interview and observation. Second is define. Define means 5W1H. Next stage is ideate. Ideate means generate the ideas. We need to generate ideas on the project. How we can generate? 2 ways I will tell you again. One way is a brainstorming. One way of generating idea is brainstorming. What is brainstorming? Brainstorming means these are the 5 members of a team. They have a problem with them. Now they will discuss about that problem and they will try to generate solutions. Like he will give X solution, he will give Y solution, he will give Z solution, he will give some other solution. Now once you put all these solutions together, maybe you can develop on the solutions, you can develop on ideas. Are you getting my point? म्हणजे यानी X solution सांगितलंय, त्यांनी Y सांगितलंय, can we integrate X and Y? Can we put X on Y? किंवा मग त्याला Y सुचायच्या आधीच यानी X वरती काहीतरी वेगळंच सांगितलं. So developing more ideas, ideas and ideas, that is called as brainstorming. जसं आपण जर म्हटलं की we have to go for vacation on Goa. आपल्याला गोव्याला 5 दिवसासाठी वेकेशनला जायचं आहे असं आपण ठरवलं. And then we discuss. हा म्हणेल बसनी जायचं आहे, तो म्हणेल ट्रेननी जायचं आहे, तो म्हणेल विमानाने जायचं आहे, राईट. मग हा याचे बसचं किती कॉस्ट होईल तो सांगेल, विमानाचे किती होते. दे विल डिस्कस. या सगळ्या डिस्कशनमधून काहीतरी ठरवतील की आपण इथपर्यंतचा प्रवास बसनी करू, पुढचा ट्रेननी करू, येताना विमानाने येऊ, तिथे गेल्यानंतर काय करायचं आहे. When this is happening when you all come together and when you discuss the problem. This is called as brainstorming. This is called as brainstorming. So brainstorming is the best way of generating ideas. Alone you cannot generate ideas. And brainstorming should happen with the help of pen and paper. कागद आणि पेन जवळ ठेवायचं, लिहायचं आहे, नोट डाऊन करायचं आहे, कट करायचं आहे, परत लिहायचं आहे. Then only you can generate ideas. तुम्हाला आयडिया सुचतात का? तुम्हाला आयडिया येतात का? येतात? कधी येतात? When do you get the most creative kind of ideas? When you are alone, when you are not thinking any other, you are not thinking about academics, you are not thinking about anything. कधी येतात आयडिया? तुमचा कधी असा कोणता throughout a day, what is that particular moment when you generate some ideas?
जेव्हा समस्या
जेव्हा
समस्या
सेमिस्टर
समस्या
समस्या येते,
प्रॉब्लेम जनरेट झाला तर कळतं इथं काही असं करायला पाहिजे.
बरं, तसा कुठला दिवसातला असा वेळ असतो की त्याच्यामध्ये आपल्याला खूप आयडिया सुचतात? मग ती आयडिया फक्त अभ्यासाची असेल किंवा प्रॉब्लेमची नसेल, पण अशी कुठली इनोव्हेटिव्ह आयडिया की आपण हे केलं पाहिजे?
प्रोजेक्ट्सला बघून म्हणजे प्रोजेक्ट्स वरती स्टडी करता करता म्हणजे एखाद्या समजा समोर प्रोजेक्ट आहे,
हो, पण कधी सुचतं हे?
टायमिंग त्याच वेळेस त्याला थोडा त्याच्यावरती थोडा विचार केला तर मग त्याच्यानंतर अजून एक आयडिया सुचतो.
पण दिवसातला असा एक वेळ शोधा तुम्ही की ज्या वेळेला मला चांगल्या आयडिया सुचतात. जेव्हा मी सकाळी जॉगिंग करायला जातो ना, जवळपास 40 मिनिटं मी एकटाच असतो, तेव्हा मला खूप सारे आयडिया सुचतात. तर असा आपला दिवसभरातला एक असा मोमेंट शोधायचा की आपल्याला काय आयडिया येऊ शकतात, काय सुचू शकतात. तुमच्या घरामध्ये पण प्रॉब्लेम असतील तर सगळ्यात जास्त प्रॉब्लेम सॉल्व्ह कोण करतं? प्रॉब्लेम येतात का घरी? काही अडचणी, तुमचे काही घरातले विषय असतील तेव्हा तुम्ही डिस्कस करता, सोल्युशन कोण देतं सगळ्यात जास्त वेळा? आई देते मग जास्त वेळ का नाही? आय फील दॅट विमेन आर व्हेरी क्रिएटिव्ह. दे प्रोव्हाइड सोल्युशन्स टू एव्हरी प्रॉब्लेम. दॅट कॅन बी अ फॅमिली प्रॉब्लेम और एनी. घरातलं समजा काही तुटलं मोडलेलं असेल काही तर त्याला कोण जोडतं? किचन मधलं काही असेल समजा तिथे काही वर्क होत नाहीये, लाईटर चालत नाहीये किंवा काय असेल प्रॉब्लेम, तिथे कोण काम करतं? आईच काम करतं. सो द मोस्ट क्रिएटिव्ह पर्सन इन द फॅमिली इज मदर. बरोबर. सो तसं आपल्याला पण काही सुचलं पाहिजे. त्या दृष्टीने आपला मोस्ट क्रिएटिव्ह टाइम कुठला आहे? म्हणजे करिअरमध्ये सुद्धा आपल्याला काय करायचं आहे त्याच्याबद्दलच्या वेगवेगळ्या आयडिया जनरेट करणे, दॅट इज ऑल्सो क्रिएटिव्ह पार्ट. पण ते सुचतं कधी आपल्याला? दॅट यू आयडेंटिफाय. दिवसभरातला आपला कुठला वेळ आहे की ज्या वेळेला आपल्याला सुचतं की आपण काहीतरी करू शकतो, दॅट यू आयडेंटिफाय. सो आयडिएशनचा एक पार्ट मी तुम्हाला सांगितला, ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग, वेन यू कम टुगेदर, डिस्कस द इशू अँड ट्राय टू सॉल्व दॅट इशू, दॅट इज ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग. सेकंड पार्ट ऑफ डुईंग दॅट इज अपोजिट थिंकिंग. सेकंड पार्ट ऑफ दॅट इज अपोजिट थिंकिंग. अपोजिट थिंकिंग म्हणजे काय करायचं आहे? आपल्याला बऱ्याच वेळा काय होतं की आयडिया सुचत नाही, पण एखादी आयडिया बिघडवायची कशी याच्याबद्दल जास्त सुचतं. बरोबर. सो सपोज वी नीड टू जनरेट सम आयडियाज रिलेटेड टू हाऊ आय कॅन स्कोर 9 CGPA इन द एक्झाम. एक्झाममध्ये मला 9 CGPA किंवा 9च्या अबाव CGPA कसा मिळेल याच्याबद्दलच्या आयडिया आपल्याला जनरेट करायच्या आहे. तर आपल्याला सुचणार नाही तशा. तर आपण काय विचार करायचा की हाऊ आय कॅन फेल इन द एक्झाम. व्हॉट आर द वेज ऑफ फेलिंग इन द एक्झाम. काय काय आयडिया असू शकतात? हाऊ वी कॅन फेल इन द एक्झाम. अभ्यासच करायचा ना, दॅट इज फर्स्ट पॉईंट. देन लेक्चर अटेंड करायचे नाही. देन असाइनमेंट वेळेवर द्यायच्या नाही. देन कॅम्पसमध्ये इकडे तिकडे फिरायचं. अजून पेपरला जायचं नाही. So you write down all these points. Maybe you will get 100 points. Now convert all those negative statements into the positive statement. You will get 100 ideas of scoring 9 CGPA. एखाद्या शिक्षकासोबत भांडण करायचं. That is also idea. So when you write 100 such ideas which will help you to fail in the exam, you convert those 100 ideas into positive statements, you will get 100 new ideas for doing it. And then out of those 100 you identify the most effective ways of doing it. Definitely you will be able to score 9 and above CG. This is the reverse thinking kind of ideation process. Right? So two methods I have suggested, brainstorming and reverse thinking. There are multiple ways of doing this that we will not be able to cover in this session. So third step was ideation, fourth step is prototype. Fourth step is prototype. डिझाइन थिंकिंगच्या 5 स्टेजेस आहेत. पहिली आहे एम्पथाइज, दुसरी आहे डिफाइन, थर्ड आहे आयडिएट, फोर्थ इज प्रोटोटाइप and fifth is test. Prototype means we need to actually develop a model of that. Now what comes to your mind when you say prototype? Prototype शब्द काढल्यानंतर आपल्या डोक्यात काय विचार येतो? प्रोटोटाइपचा विचार केला की आपण काय म्हणतो? डिझाइन ऑफ द मॉडेल. म्हणजे काहीतरी मॉडेल आपल्या डोळ्यासमोर येतं लगेच, बरोबर? अजून एखादं वर्किंग मॉडेल, काहीतरी चालतंय फिरतंय किंवा आपण उचललंय हातामध्ये, दॅट काइंड ऑफ प्रोटोटाइप असा विचार. बट प्रोटोटाइप कॅन ऑल्सो बी ऑन अ पीस ऑफ पेपर. तुम्ही साधं मी जर सांगितलं की आपल्याला ड्रोन बनवायचा आहे ॲग्रिकल्चरल फील्डसाठी, तुम्ही नुसतं ड्रोनचं चित्र जरी काढलं, दॅट इज अ लो फिडिलिटी प्रोटोटाइप. दॅट इज कॉल्ड ॲज लो फिडिलिटी प्रोटोटाइप. आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉईंट? नुसतं ते दिसेल कसं असं जरी आपण चित्र काढलं, दॅट इज युअर लो फिडिलिटी प्रोटोटाइप. हेल्मेट बनवायचं आहे आपल्याला, ते हे जे नेक प्रोटेक्ट करण्यासाठी, तुम्ही त्याचं चित्र जरी काढलं, दॅट इज युअर लो फिडिलिटी प्रोटोटाइप. देन यू कॅन यूज सम मटेरियल लाईक थर्माकॉल असेल किंवा अजून काहीतरी असेल, त्याचं बनवून एखादं छोटं मॉडेल बनवलं, दॅट इज ऑल्सो लो फिडिलिटी प्रोटोटाइप. वेन यू टेक दॅट मॉडेल, यू डेव्हलप अ CAD डिझाइन फॉर दॅट on a computer, then it is a medium level fidelity model. आलं लक्षात? आणि नंतर जेव्हा तुम्ही ऍक्च्युअल हार्डवेअर मॉडेल बनवता, दॅट इज हाय फिडिलिटी प्रोटोटाइप. आलं का लक्षात? प्रोटोटाइप मध्ये डायरेक्ट तुम्ही असं लाईक दिसलंच पाहिजे, काहीतरी रोबोट बनवलाच पाहिजे असं नाही. यू कॅन डू इट ऑन अ पीस ऑफ पेपर. एक स्केच काढून, ड्रॉइंग काढून बनवलं, दॅट इज अ प्रोटोटाइप. मग त्याला थोडंसं वरच्या लेवलला न्या, CAD डिझाईन बनवा, त्याला वरच्या लेवलला न्या, त्याला अजून हार्डवेअर छोटं मॉडेल बनवा. सपोज आय वॉन्ट टू मेक अ सॅटेलाइट. आता मी एकदम मोठा सॅटेलाइट तर नाही बनवणार, छोटं मॉडेल बनवेल, दॅट इज अ प्रोटोटाइप. सो दॅट वे वी कॅन स्टार्ट इनिशियली. प्रोटोटाइप बनवायचं म्हणजे डायरेक्ट असं मोठं प्रोटोटाइप बनवायची गरज नाही. यू कॅन स्टार्ट विथ द स्केच ऑफ दॅट. सो दॅट इज फोर्थ स्टेप, प्रोटोटाइप. अँड लास्ट स्टेप इज टेस्ट. लास्ट स्टेप काय आहे? टेस्ट. सो टेस्ट मीन्स वेन युअर फायनल prototype is ready, that you can give it to the customer and you can ask him to wear this helmet and tell me your experience. Barabar? That is called as testing, actual testing. You make a drone, you fly it in the agricultural field and see that whether it is giving whether it is sprinkling the fertilizers or not. That is a testing of that prototype. Are you getting my point? So for a design thinking, 5 stages: empathy, define, ideate, prototype and test. For empathy, observation and interview. For define, 5W, 1H. For ideate, brainstorming and reverse thinking. For prototype, start with the sketch and develop the final prototype. And test is actually you give your product for testing to the customers. So this is all about design thinking and this is what we call it as a project concept. Conception बद्दल आपण बोलत होतो आतापर्यंत. We are talking about the project life cycle and we are talking about the conception. या सगळ्या गोष्टी कुठे आल्या? Conception मध्ये आल्या. या सगळ्या गोष्टी कुठे आल्या? Conception. Now let us go to the next stage of project life cycle, that is definition. That is definition. So definition is where we need to actually define our project. So what is first point here? First point is define the title of your project. First step is defining the title of project. Most of the times we do not define it properly. Project चं title कसं define केलं पाहिजे आपण? That also we need to understand, because it should clearly indicate our thought process, right? Suppose I want to develop an agricultural drone for spraying fertilizers. त्याला मी काय नाव दिलं पाहिजे प्रोजेक्टला? त्याला काय नाव दिलं पाहिजे? Title, any title should reflect what and how. Sometimes you can add when and where. Project title मध्ये काय असलं पाहिजे? What and how should be there. Sometimes it can have when and where. Most of the times आपण प्रोजेक्टचं टायटल जेव्हा देतो, it is only what. Agricultural drone, आपण असंच नाव दिलं असतं त्याला. काय दिलं असतं नाव? Agricultural drone. पण आता आपल्याला असं नाव देऊन चालणार नाहीये. So agricultural drone for spraying the fertilizers. That way we need to define it. So when we are defining the title for the project, we need to see that it will have what and how. Title should not be too long. खूप मोठं title पण नाही द्यायचं आहे आपल्याला. It can be like 10 words maximum, not more than that. It will not contain some abbreviations. Most of the times we use abbreviations, but try to avoid those abbreviations. Title should be very specific. It should give clear idea to the customers, or clear idea to the examiner, clear idea to your project guide, right? Because it should engage the reader. Title वाचल्यानंतर रीडर्सला इंटरेस्ट आला पाहिजे, खरंच काहीतरी याच्यामध्ये वेगळं असणार, राइट? सो दॅट वे वी नीड टू डिसाइड द टाइटल. इज दिस क्लियर? सो फर्स्ट पॉइंट इन द डेफिनेशन इज डिसाइडिंग द प्रोजेक्ट टाइटल. आता हे टाइटल ठरवायचं कसं? सपोज देर आर 4 मेंबर्स इन द टीम, एव्हरीवन शुड राइट हिज और हर ओन टाइटल. प्रोजेक्ट इज सेम. हा एक टाइटल लिही, हा एक टाइटल लिही, असे 4 जण वेगवेगळे टायटल लिहितील. देन दे विल डिस्कस विथ ईच अदर. दिस इज माय टायटल, व्हॉट इज युअर टायटल, व्हॉट वी कॅन कंबाईन दिस, व्हॉट वी कॅन जनरेट एज अ न्यू टायटल. That we need to see, and based on that you can decide your own title. The second point in the definition is define your aims and objectives for the project. Define your aims and objectives. What are aims and what are objectives? What are aims and objectives? Aims are the broader statements about your project. Like what will be your achievement? Broader statements, थोडं मोठ्या याच्याप्रमाणे. And there can be 1 or 2 aims for the project. And objectives are more specific about it. Objectives are more specific. Aim of the project is broken down into multiple objectives. Objectives can be 6 to 7 objectives for the project. Aim can be 1 or 2. Aim आपल्याला जास्त ठेवायचं नाही, 1 किंवा 2 aim, and those are the broader statements about your project. Objectives can be multiple, and those are the split up of your aim. Objectives should be smart. Objectives should be smart. What is smart? Specific, measurable, then achievable, relevant, and timely. That way we need to define our objective. Specific means very clear to the point. Specific means very clear to the point. Measurable means you can measure it. Measure in the form of like some variable, some parameter. You can measure it. Then achievable. You should be able to achieve it. Something you should get at the end. Time bounds means you need to look at the time required for achieving that. And the last one is time bound, and before that relevant. It is relevant to your project. Every objective should start with some action work. Objective is to design something. So that way you need to start with the action work. Objectives we need to start with the Option B. So we need to define our aims and objectives of the project, right? Third point in the definition is that we need to define the scope of the project. We need to define scope of the project. There is a difference between the future scope and the scope of the project. Don't go here. Future scope and scope of the project. Future scope means once your project is over, project is finished, that time if you plan to do something more in the project, that is a future scope. But this scope which I am talking about is what are your limitations, to what extent you will be doing some work in the project. कुठल्या लेवल पर्यंत आपण काम करणार आहे. If I am taking the example of the same drone, the scope is limited for a field of 2 acres. We are developing a drone which will spray the fertilizers in 2 hours in 2-acre plant. Scope is limited to the tank capacity of that drone. This drone is developed or designed with a tank capacity of 5 liters. This is a scope. Scope is related with the crop pattern, like this drone is developed with this crop pattern. हा जर क्रॉप असेल तरच हा ड्रोन वापरता येईल, अदरवाइज हा ड्रोन वापरता येणार नाही. This is called as the scope. What are my limitations? To what extent I will be using it? That is called as the scope. That also we need to design. Right? Suppose I am developing an electric vehicle. What is my scope? The maximum speed that I can achieve with that vehicle. The maximum battery capacity that will be with my vehicle. That is a scope. That is called as a scope of the project. Is this clear? So that way we need to define a scope. That way we need to define a scope. Okay. Then this is all about the defining, right? Some more points are there in the defining that we will see in our next discussion. Now we need to look at the fourth step of project life cycle, that is execution. We need to start working on the project execution, right? आपण आधी काय बघितलंय? Conception, then definition. Now we are talking about the execution. Now we need to start actually on a project. We need to start working on it. So for that, we need to look at what is the current status of that project. What is the current status of that problem? To what extent it is solved? When I am talking about the drone which we are going to develop for the agricultural sector, are there drones available in the market? Yes, there may be. We need to come up with some innovative solution. So first of all, we need to understand what are the existing models in the market available. That actually we can interact with the industries, interact with the customers, those who are actually using it. That knowledge we can get. Apart from that, we also need to get some knowledge from the research papers. So we need to look at the existing stock of knowledge by referring to the research paper, the reports of the government, corporate reports which are available on those particular topics, and we need to get the latest information related to that problem statement or related to that project. So that we need to find out. So first of all, we need to identify the research papers in that area. How we can identify research papers? What are the sources available for identifying research paper? Do you know research paper? Research papers, you know. Research paper म्हणजे काय असतात? If somebody has done some excellent work in the project, they can write a research paper and publish that research paper on the with some publisher like IEEE, IET, Springer, Inter Science. All these are the publishers where you can publish your research work and get the recognition for that work, so that people working on that area can refer to your work and get some more ideas or they can also work on that same problem statement. So that is called as a research paper. Scholarly written articles, right? So you need to refer to some existing research papers on your project topic so that you can get some more information on that. So that you can get through what? Digital library. In the institute you must be having a digital library and you can access research papers from there. आपल्याकडे असेल ना sir? IEEE. So all the digital library access is available in your institute library. You can search papers on that and you can get some more information on the topic. So that way you can get some more information. After that, study those papers. Studying is also required some efforts. Reading also required some efforts. How to read that research paper, how to study that I will not discuss here. But just find out some research papers related to your topic. Next point that we need to discuss is develop a block diagram. आता कुठलाही project करत असताना we have talked about defining the problem statement, identifying the topic or defining the topic, aims, objectives. Now we need to develop a block diagram. Now we need to develop a block diagram. Block diagram is a pictorial representation of your project. Every project is nothing but some kind of process that we can represent in the form of block diagram. And every process will have some input and some output. Every project will have some input and some output that we can represent in the form of block diagram. So it can have connected blocks. कुठेतरी आपण एक input दिलंय, that block will operate on that input, it will provide some output, right? Again it will give it to the another block, and that way it can complete the flowchart. Flowchart is also one way of representing. Flowchart मध्ये काय करतो आपण? We start from some point and we end at some point. So flowchart is also one kind of block diagram. So we need to develop that block diagram for our project, right? एक block diagram आपल्याला बनवावी लागेल. Then we can discuss the block diagrams developed by all the team members, and then we can come up with the final block diagram of our project. We can come up with the. आता जसं आपण विचार केला की electric scooter, if that is the way, that is the project, then what it will have? It will have a block of motor, it will have a block of converter, it will have a block of battery, it will have a block of it will have a block of sensors and all that which are integrated with that, right? So every block is connected. Somewhere we are putting some input like charging point. So charging point is connected to the battery is charged, it is connected to the converter is connected to the motor. That way it is having the connection. And we represent all these connections with the help of arrows. Arrows plays very important in the block diagram. Arrows communicate the information, whether it is one-way information or two-way information. So we need to pay attention to the arrows and we need to develop a proper block diagram of the project. And that actually helps us to understand or to develop the proper understanding of the project. So block diagram is very important because it provides clarity for the understanding. It provides a visual representation. It is a communication tool, because if you want to explain that project to someone, you need some block diagram. तुम्हाला तो project कोणाला समजावून जरी सांगायचा असेल, तो you need some block diagram. Then that is also required for documentation. When you will be concluding your project, in that concluding report, you need to include the block diagram, right? So that way you can develop your block diagram. Next step is, once block diagram is ready, you have to develop your methodology, like how I can complete my project, how I can execute my project. Methodology, what are my steps in that, right? So methodology is nothing but a structured approach, because any project is a time bound project. आपल्याकडे 6 महिन्याचा वेळ असतो किंवा 1 वर्षाचा वेळ असतो, right? We do not have 2 years, 3 years for a project. So it is a time bound project. So we need to complete all our activities within that time frame. and we need to plan our activities in that way. So it is a structured approach. We also need to look at the standard processes and practices of completing the project. Standard processes and practices म्हणजे काय की there may be some multiple ways of doing that. म्हणजे एखादा ड्रोन आपल्याला बनवायचा आहे, प्रोग्रामिंग करायचं आहे, there may be some other tools available for the same kind of work. एक मोटर आपल्याला घ्यायची आहे, there may be some other motors available in the market. पण त्या सगळ्या मोटरमधली कुठली मोटर आपल्याला निवडायची आहे, that is a part of methodology. And why are we selecting that particular motor? Justification of that is also very important, that we need to provide in the methodology. Once methodology is finalized, we need to develop a project plan. Project plan means sequence of activities that we will be doing. Right? Activity 1, activity 2, activity 3, activity 4. What is activity 1? Defining the problem statement. Activity 2 is designing the block diagram. Next activity is mathematical analysis, mathematical calculations. Next is programming related to that. After that, hardware development. All these are the steps in your project, and these are to be completed within the specified time frame. की आपण आता मॅथमॅटिकल अनालिसिस 2 आठवड्यांमध्ये करू, प्रोग्रामिंगसाठी लागणारा वेळ एवढा, हार्डवेअर डेव्हलपमेंटसाठी एवढा. दॅट वी नीड टू हॅव ऑन वन शीट. दॅट इज कॉल्ड ॲज प्रोजेक्ट प्लॅन. सो एव्हरीथिंग इज डॉक्युमेंटेड. आय नीड टू फिनिश. जसं इंजिनिअरिंग कंप्लीट करणे 4 वर्षामध्ये इज अ प्रोजेक्ट. And every time you have a time frame, like semester 3, it has 6 months. We need to finish that. We need to complete these courses, we need to pass these courses, then only we will be in the semester 4. So we need to again study some subjects, we need to clear those subjects, then we will be in the next semester. So it is a time bound project. So likewise, this project that you will be carrying out will be a time bound project. So you need to plan it. की मॅथमॅटिकल अनालिसिस कधी करायचं आहे, प्रोग्रामिंग कधी करायचं आहे, हार्डवेअर कधी करायचं आहे, फायनल प्रोजेक्ट डेव्हलपमेंट